The Pilgrims sailed to America from this little town in Holland, Leiden, where I located the secretary of one of early America's most influential religions, the Quakers. I interviewed Hans Weening about Quaker philosophy and Dutch drug policy.
If you talk about drugs policy, or even the policy towards drinking and smoking, if you have, call it liberal views about that, it doesn't necessarily mean that you advocate the use of it. Quite on the contrary, if you are concerned, generally concerned about the issue, I think you should do something about the problem and try to help solve it. That's what the concern comes from. And concern for drug abuse leads to what I call a very positive, constructive social action, not towards repression. Because I think repression of the problem often comes from disconcern. They are not concerned at all about the people involved. And I think that's what Quakers really try to stress, that if we really want to solve the problem, we should inform our people what are the risks, give very, very clear information. I think our children of 14 should know what marijuana is, what the effects of it are. They should know what cocaine is, or LSD, or all sorts of things that are on the market and they are confronted with at their school or anywhere else. They should know what it's all about. So to tell it, you need clear information. I mean, but providing information doesn't mean that you advocate it. On the contrary, you're concerned about it, and I think that's something that Americans should regard much more. That to solve the problem, you need to do an awful lot of work, and you're only willing to do the work if you're really concerned. And I think that may be the hypocrisy about everybody criticizing the Dutch policies, that it's too liberal and it's I don't know what I say, but we try to act out of concern rather than repressing it. Of course, I mean, many people know that Quakers have a tradition of, say, what they call temperance. Many Quakers have been, not so much in the beginning actually, but especially from the 18th, especially 19th century, many Quakers became non-alcoholic, teetotal.
They never drank, they never smoked.
No, they advocated the non-use of alcohol and drugs in general. And there's still a very large, I think the majority of Quakers would not use any drugs or alcohol or even meat. I mean, many, maybe not a majority, but a large minority of Quakers are vegetarian. So I mean, that's a sort of tradition among Quakers that can be sort of seen as a sort of the temperance movement.
Or maybe good health, a tradition
good
towards
health, and they have quite some religious or maybe spiritual arguments for it. I mean, one of them is that if you use alcohol or any other drug, your mind is affected. You can't think clearly, so you can't be ready to do whatever is necessary. If people call on you, or God calls on you, you don't have to be drunk necessarily, but even if you have drunk one beer, some people say, you're not 100% ready to act. So don't use it, because you should always be ready to act if people are God calling you. I mean, that's one sort of argument that's used. And I think, indeed, another one is just good health. I mean, seeing the body as the temple where God lives in, among other things, maybe. But your body as a God-given present, even. Do you have the right to damage it?
Even if you're not damaging other people, do you have a right to damage the God-given body?
Yeah, and I think we have sort of, every Quaker would call other friends and other people to respect the body and the mind, which means that be very careful about the use of these things. it's not so. I mean, there have been different times and Quaker meetings in different times, especially in the 19th century, where there was more or less a sort of consensus and agreement. Quakers should not use whatever. But in general, I think even over the last 100 years, there's more a tradition of we should be very, very moderate and temper your use and be very careful. Although there are, especially for example, in Central America, I've been there and I've met Quakers there who have demanded new members to sort of pledge that they would never use drugs or alcohol or smoke
Very
or
strict.
even dance, because those are regarded as belonging to the reign of the devil.
Right.
So even among Quakers, there is sort of very much concern that people, and friends in particular, should not get involved in these things.
You know, if a Quaker were to have a drug problem, how would the church deal with that?
I think the church as such, or the Society of Friends as such, wouldn't deal with it in a way that there would be repercussions or that people would be disowned or whatever. It would be another thing is, what's the problem? I mean, if a child of a Quaker would, on the age of 12 or 14 or 16, smoke marijuana, would it be a problem? Would it be regarded as a problem?
Right, exactly.
Not necessarily. I mean, drugs is such a general term. I mean, of course, in the Netherlands we tend to distinguish soft drugs and hard drugs very clearly. I mean, I'm not talking about hard drugs here, I think. As soon as someone is involved in the use of hard drugs, I mean, everybody would agree that there is a problem.
There is a problem
Yes.
with hard drugs.
Yeah, and that should be solved, and there should be healthcare provided there. But drugs in the way of soft drugs, marijuana, I think that would be equally regarded as smoking, or smoking nicotine, or smoking tobacco, or drinking alcohol.
Why is that? Why are soft drugs treated differently, like marijuana, than hard drugs?
Because, I mean, in Europe and or in the Netherlands, and among Quakers, I mean, also the British Quakers, they've made publications about it, and 20 years ago, they wrote down already that we should not regard marijuana as being addictive, not more than nicotine. Nicotine is addictive, but tobacco is and nicotine is addictive, probably more than marijuana.
So it's really a rational conclusion that people have come to, that there's really not anything to get excited about in terms of soft drugs.
Some people get excited about it. I mean, for example, when we have youth gatherings, and quite a few parents are concerned that their children attending these gatherings will meet others that drink or smoke or even smoke marijuana. The point with Quakers is that they don't have a sort of creed. It's not so that someone or a body or a gathering says this is what Quakers should believe. We don't have a written creeds which you have to sign if you become a member.
More of a consensus.
It's more, it's consensus on the one, although there's much variety among Quakers, among groups of Quakers, but also among individual Quakers. And some people say if you have two Quakers, you have an argument. But not so much for the sake of arguing, but because Quakers are stimulated, and they stimulate each other to make up their own minds. I mean, they have a wonderful saying, what canst thou say, in perfectly old English. That's what matters. It's not so much, it's not even what the Bible says, it's not even what God says, it's not even it's not what Clinton says or what the Pope says. No, it's what can you say? Have you reached a conclusion? If not, I would also almost say shut up. Make up your mind and don't listen, don't imitate others, don't follow others because of their authority. No, you have to make up your own mind. And then you can make a decision for yourself and take a stand. I think that's our political philosophy.